Hey guys, before the video starts, I want to say that a lot of the manga images used in this video will be in Spanish or Japanese, and that's because the English translations for the series have not been caught up, unfortunately. So if you can't read Spanish or Japanese, which I'm sure most people who these videos will get to can't, I'm sorry. It's this, or just put walls of text on screen, and that's not as good. So yep, there you go. Combatants Will Be Dispatched is a series I like a lot, and if you have been watching my recent reviews on the volumes, I believe you would definitely be able to see that. I think this series is just immensely fun and has some great character writing sprinkled throughout the first 4 volumes. It is just a good time, but not a perfect series by any stretch of the imagination. There are a good few issues throughout each of the 4 light novels of this series, small issues to be sure, but issues nonetheless. However, I believe this kind of changes once the series gets to Volume 5. Volume 5 of Combatants Will Be Dispatched is honestly one of my favorite pieces of media at this point in time. Having gone through this book countless times, be it through my own readings or using to haphazardly translate the manga for myself, I've grown to really love and appreciate this book. And so, having reread this book again for this video, I decided to talk about why I think this book is such a masterpiece, and just so phenomenal as an entry to an already very fun series. I think the first thing to note for Volume 5 of Combatants is that this book really feels like a new point in the story. At the start of this book, the war with the Demon Kingdom, something that has taken a large presence in the series as of yet, is over. The first major point of conflict in this series that's been introduced has passed, and now we're on to something new. I think that Volume 5 changing the focus and scope of the series is very nice and makes things feel all fresh again. Sort of like giving the series a breath of fresh air, even if it hasn't even gone stale yet. It feels like the Z to Dragon Ball, the Part 3 to your JoJo's, the Part 2 to your Attack on Titans Part 3. Changing up the series and adding new things for the better, despite already being great, is something I really appreciated here. It just feels really impressive to me that a series that, while still fresh and new, gets a new injection of life into it, and it is definitely something that I felt I had to speak on when reviewing this book. Another thing to note about this volume is the overall tone. Now, tone is very important in media, and something that obviously matters. If the tone is off or wonky in whatever media you're consuming, it would be painfully noticeable. You want the attitude of the piece to be consistent and engaging, and not off. A perfect example of tone being used expertly, at least to me, is the movie Bullet Train. Now stick with me here, but Bullet Train's tone is what I believe to be somewhat masterful. The film has a brilliant tone that, while showcasing comedy on the forefront, has a layer of seriousness and tension just constantly bubbling beneath it, and I think it's very well done. Because it's so easy for a piece of media to screw this up. An example being Thor: Love and Thunder, where despite there being a literal god killer on the loose wishing to kill everybody, the movie can't stop saying cheesy jokes and making me just not take the film very seriously. But Bullet Train does this tone well, perfectly mixing the two and creating a brilliant contrast that, while lighthearted and fun, still takes itself very seriously and has important beats that it does not miss. And getting back to the topic at hand, I think that this volume is the exact same way. Unlike the previous 4 volumes in the series, which are all primarily comedy and just sort of silly nonsense with pinches of serious beats, just as Snow in Volume 1 or Lilith in 16 in Volume 4, Volume 5 has a totally unique tone and feel. Now, this isn't to say that the comedy nonsense in the previous volumes is bad. Not at all. Going back to my previous videos, I have praised those books heavily. But what I do want to say is that it makes Volume 5 feel a step above from the other books in the series, and uniquely fresh. Volume 5's much more serious tone fits the story it's trying to tell and does a great job keeping me engaged, all the while still having a layer of comedy to not make things go too sour. And the main thing that I believe holds the tone and overall book together is the character, Viper. Now, if you know me even just a little bit, you know I couldn't talk about Volume 5 without talking about this character. Viper is currently one of my favorite characters in media, period. She's something else, so let's talk about why she is so great in this book, and how just her introduction to the series enhances it all the more. Viper is the Demon Lord in the series and a completely brand new character introduced in this volume. This volume focuses on her and her drive to ensure her people's safety and security. She is a very kind, honest-to-a-fault character who rolls off the other members of the main cast very well. I think she's a very fresh addition to the main cast, feeling very unique from everyone else due to, well, not being an awful person. I think Viper's introduction here is very well done and feels very organic. And you would think that introducing a main member of the cast 4 volumes after everyone else would feel somewhat abrupt, weird, and even strange, but Viper is handled perfectly. I think Viper gets the right amount of screen time to really give the reader a chance to know her while not being overbearing. We get the entire volume to learn her goals and personality traits, while also being able to see her struggles and sorrows. It is very well done and probably the best character writing in the series. The serious writing surrounding Viper throughout the volume also contrasts greatly with the rest of the cast and helps push comedy away from being too overbearing itself, and I think it's really fantastic in this regard. Viper's relationship with the main cast members are all great as well, and I really love how she really just has an impact on all the characters we've met so far, something other characters haven't really had yet. But if we're talking about relationships with other characters, let's specifically talk about her relationship with the main character of this series, Agent 6. The relationship, in my opinion, is the best written relationship in this series, followed very closely by Alex and 6. Viper's relationship with 6 is so well written and works so well for a character arc. There are plenty of very small moments in this volume between the two of them that slowly build up as the book progresses. We'd see her initially wary of 6 but slowly open up to him as a friend and begin to enjoy herself despite the situations that surround her. Every moment between the two characters is so well crafted, it fits the story perfectly, developing both characters while also doing a great job of keeping that masterful tone mentioned earlier present. And when we've reached what I believe to be the best scene in the series, the cell scene, it all culminates in a very beautiful and touching scene that not only completes Viper's character development, but also showcases 6's character in a very charitable light. Viper's relationship with 6 and her development and growth throughout this volume are nothing short of phenomenal, and I really just can't appreciate it enough. Viper is also a very cute character with plenty of adorable moments, and of course, this being a comedic series, Viper is still very funny. There were plenty of laughs I got when reading some of the things that she did, and it is something I really loved. And because I don't want to waste all your time talking about Viper, because honestly, that deserves its own entire different video, let's talk about some of the other characters. And starting off controversially, Rose still kind of sucks. Now, I'm not as disappointed in Rose as much as I used to be, especially when I made this video a couple months back, but she still sucks. Even if I believe her character was handled well in Volume 4, Natsumi could have easily continued building her up in this volume, but he didn't, and it's kind of unfortunate for her character. Now, I want to say kind of unfortunate as while Rose did get kicked to the curb, Viper was introduced and her writing is infinitely better than anything Rose could have ever gotten, so it's not the biggest deal that Rose was left a little bit behind in my opinion. Moving away from Rose though, let's talk about her best friend, Grim. Grim is hysterical in this volume, and easily one of the funnier characters in this book. The stuff she says is always just making me laugh, like calling Heaney 6's concubine, screaming about her attacks as a gun towards couples, or attempting to use Viper's execution as a way to become a rebound girl for 6. It's just really funny, and I couldn't stop laughing whenever Grim appeared. Grim isn't really the only funny character in this volume though. I believe that the Combatants agents are great as well, and I've spoken about them before in this series, but they're actually pretty prevalent in this volume and get a lot of time to shine. They are of course not the most fleshed out characters, but they're really funny in how they're written and their actions with one another. I love this little hierarchy they have amongst themselves, along with some of the self-made rules they've made, like don't sexually harass Viper, something this one combatant agent didn't get the memo of. But yeah, the combatant agents are funny. Snow is also great, and actually has some nice moments sprinkled out throughout this volume. Not to the same level as Volume 1, but still kinda nice. Snow is also a bit racist, so, do with that information what you will. One character who really shined in this volume, I felt though, was Heaney. Heaney has always been a pretty fun character in these volumes, but has never really taken much precedent as she has now. I really admire Heaney's loyalty to Viper and her people, and think it's just a nice character trait. I like that Natsumi has kind of expanded on the fact that Heaney's just kind of stupid at heart, and I find it pretty fun. Easily the best scene with Heaney though is the final scene of chapter 5 of this volume, when she realizes that Viper is alive after her fake suicide. It is a really touching scene to see her overcome with such emotion, and I really appreciate the writing for that character. Another person who I appreciated in that scene was Agent 6. I spoke about Agent 6 earlier in this video when talking about his relationship with Viper, but 6 is phenomenal in this volume. He is of course funny, but this volume I feel like really focuses on his good nature more often, especially towards the end of this volume. I really like how he constantly reassures Viper for her people's safety. I of course love the dialogue in the cell scene and find it beautifully written as previously mentioned, but I think what I like the most is how he is depicted in the final scene of chapter 5. I think it's really interesting to see 6 so depressed and written so downtrodden, as it's a side we haven't ever really seen of him in this series so far. Sure, we've had sadder moments where he's not at 100%, but they quickly get pushed away for his more comedic nature. At the end of this volume though, that comedic nature isn't here, and I really like how Natsumi portrays him when he believed he couldn't protect someone close. It's just that he's more than just a joke who doesn't think about others, and I really enjoyed that. It's pretty amazing. Alice is great too, by the way. Haven't talked about her much in this video, mainly because she doesn't have the greatest role in this video, but She's pretty fun, and I think it's really funny when she gets hyped about Viper's suicide being an explosion. So yeah, all the characters in this book are great, but you know what's even better? The action. The action in this volume is nothing short of stellar. From Viper's Demon Lord punch, to Viper and Six running around the kingdom with eggs exploding all around them. There are so many fun action bits in this volume. I think I would say that it is slightly above Volume 3 for me in terms of what volume has the best action moments, as everything is all just really energetic and fun. Not a lot to talk about here, but the action is just great, and the manga is really doing it justice in my opinion. What else? Oh, the art. I talked about this before in the first video of this little review series, but I'm not the biggest fan of the first 4 volumes and their art. The art definitely is not terrible by any means, but it's just not really my cup of tea. In Volume 5 though, I suppose that Kakao Lantern, the artist of this series, kinda cracked their knuckles and said, let me cook, because man, the art is amazing here. The best piece is obviously the final piece of the volume, but Gaming Viper is also iconic, and Agent 10 and his maid outfit is as intimidating as it gets. It's amazing. So in short, Volume 5 is an amazing volume with beautiful writing, fun action, hilarious moments, a unique tone, and heartfelt moments. I think this is easily the best volume in the series as of yet, and I don't really think it's close. Viper as the final member of the main cast to be introduced couldn't have had a stronger volume to start off in, and her being the main character enhances the volume all the more. And I really like this book. Now, I've been saving this part to the end, but if I had to rank this novel with the other novels in the series, it wouldn't be an S tier with Volume 4, but in a tier of its own. I think it's just that good. I think Combatants Will Be Dispatched is a book that I could never recommend enough, and although I can't read the manga because it's not being translated, I'm simply happy enough to see that it is having a seemingly great adaptation. So woo, that's a long video, huh? Yeah, this is a lot longer than I expected. I really thought this book was great, and so when I sat down and went to write the script, I really felt that I had to do it justice. Sorry for whenever this comes out because I definitely broke my weekly promise of this review, but I'm sure you get it. Next week is Volume 6, and I'm sure that'll be back to the 4 to 6 minutes length because I can't do too many of these kinds of videos. What else? Viper. She's great, an amazing character who I really wish had more fan art. Really fun to see people talk about her and their wacky ideas surrounding the character. Some people ship her with Six, some people think she's a masochist, some people think she's boring. I don't necessarily agree with any of these takes, although at least the first one has a tiny sliver of reasoning, but I think as long as people talk about the character, I'm happy because I just like talking about it myself. And this girl needs some fan art, man. As long as it's not any of the Iris kind, of course, because Viper's not. But anyway, that's the video. I hope y'all enjoyed, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace. And also, because you have some time, Iris's character design for Konosuba Season 3 got released. Garbage. I don't like it. That sucks. See you in the next video. Peace.